Good evening, I'm Jeff Lyons. It is 9 o'clock here on Labor Day, September the 1st. Time for the First Alert Weather Show at 9 o'clock. I'm glad you're here as always, and we have a little weather to talk about. I am watching your comments and questions, suggestions over on the 14 News Facebook page. So if you have anything you want to chime in with, feel free, and we'll check those here in just a bit. We had a sunny, gorgeous finish, an unofficial end to the summer season. I never know whether it's the official end or the unofficial end. It seems like after Labor Day, it's a pretty short slide there into fall, about 3 weeks. But anyhow, we started meteorological fall today, September, October, November, and we did it in good style there. We had cool temps. It'll be cool again overnight tonight. We do have some scattered showers and maybe some thunderstorms by midweek to look forward to. It doesn't look like it'll be enough rain to alleviate the drought conditions, but every little bit will help. That's kind of the ongoing and longer range concern here in the forecast. Our dew points are all in the middle 50s, which portends a cool night tonight. We should drop back to about 60 or so. Some cloud cover out there will keep us from getting much cooler than that. And then looking ahead, we're going to keep those temps below the normal high of 86 for much of the week. Our best chance of rain arrives on Thursday, and that's why we have a cooler high temperature with the rain and the clouds only up to about 74 degrees. Hour by hour, we're looking at maybe an isolated shower or two tomorrow afternoon, although the better chance arrives on Wednesday as a cold front slides in, and that could kick off some showers and storms by Wednesday night and continue them into Thursday morning and early afternoon. And then we clear out again for Friday, so good weather for football games out there too. Rain potential, at least on the GFS model, is very stingy again, only a quarter of an inch or so total in the next 7 days. And as I mentioned earlier today on the stream and on our 14 news shows, there's not a lot of moisture to work with in the atmosphere, so real tough to get some meaningful rainfall under these conditions. Temps are all just in that perfect range out there, real nice evening. If you haven't been out, or maybe you have to get out and walk the dog or walk yourself, it'll be fine out there. Today we hit 86. That was off of a 53-degree low this morning, about 10 degrees cooler than the norm. And we look back now at August, which turned out to be a cooler and drier than normal month, despite the fact we spent basically 2 weeks at 90 or above, really hot there in the middle of the month. We only had 1 day with really significant rainfall, and that was way back on the 12th of August, with a half an inch out at Evansville Regional. For the year, we are still at a surplus. That's a little misleading because once you get 3 or 4 months past the really wet weather, it kind of becomes irrelevant. It's all evaporated off or soaked in. The soil is getting hardened again. So you kind of start from scratch, literally, to, rejuvenate, recharge the soil. Lower 80s again tomorrow with a few more clouds during the afternoon. And at least right now, there just isn't much happening across the country. One kind of interesting thing here, I just saw that right before we came in here. We have some thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms out over Arizona. And notice too, the direction of the storms is going back toward the Pacific Ocean. That is more than likely, though, caused by moisture coming up on the monsoon there, the change in wind directions this time of the year in the southwest. Tropics-wise, we have an area that's being watched closely here by the National Hurricane Center, possible development into a tropical storm there maybe this week. The Caribbean is quiet at this point. The Gulf has some storms in it, but nothing organized or particularly concerning at this point. Again, the areas to watch are down here in the typical hurricane belt, especially this time of the year when the hurricane season is peaking. The biggest risks that we have out there, storm risk, we have a slight or marginal there in Oklahoma, but otherwise it's going to be quiet. Tomorrow, maybe some just scattered thunderstorms and general thunder again on Wednesday. The better dynamics to our west for some heavier thunderstorms there. On the hour by hour, as our high pressure moves out, cooler air will start to dive down with a cold front. That will bring us that rain chance on Thursday. It will also replenish the cool air heading into the weekend. So we have another one with 70s, maybe even upper 40s, into Saturday. So that's exciting. First time in the season that we're seeing that. Northwesterly winds will continue through the weekend and then into next week. We have additional rain chances coming up Monday and Tuesday. And the European model also advertising some rain there on Thursday. It's a little more skittish over the weekend and brings us our next round of rain, maybe with a cold front there by Wednesday. I expect a low tonight of about 60 degrees and a high tomorrow right around 82 to 85 or so with some scattered showers. If you get the rain, it'll be a little cooler at your house. And then our best chance for rain Thursday, followed by dry weather going into the weekend. Still somewhat cooler than normal through the 11th of September and drier than normal too. So that's kind of your long-range outlook. Drier weather tends to be quiet weather, so no storms or problems out there. Here's a kitty for you. This is Peanut. Riley Seibert sent this one in. Looks like Peanut is examining all the happenings out here. Pretty cat there, a tiger kitty cat. So we always like the pet pics here on the Weather Show at 9. All right, let's see what we are fretting about over here on the thing. And I'll tell you, Facebook has, every time you get used to one thing, it changes. I just have to read the comment thread here right below. So let's see, William Raleigh. Now, only if the weather temps would be like this all summer, but more rain. Yeah, I know. You know, we always want what we don't have, right? Jeff Miller is about to close the pool. I'm guessing that water a little chilly with these cold nights. We were at Holiday World yesterday. My wife and I took my son up there, and that water in the wave pool, that was bracing. And we'd been in the ocean 2 weeks ago, and it was like bath water. Even the Atlantic was very warm. Janet Stapleton says hi. All right. Well, glad to have you on here this evening. Let's see, what do I have for you? Oh, I got a little science corner for us tonight. I saw a bunch of these yesterday, contrails. And, you know, this contrails, it's a little fraught to talk about this anymore. There are conspiracy theorists who believe that some nefarious forces are spraying, you know, poison or chemicals or something up there. For what purpose, nobody has really ever said. Who's doing it, nobody has ever proven. And to what end, nobody has said. So it's a conspiracy theory. It's been around a long time, but it is just that. I can assure you wholeheartedly that contrails are basically the product of basic science, which is hot air coming out of a jet engine at altitude, interacting with super cooled air and ice crystals. And so when that comes out, you get the familiar trace across the sky, right? The jet engines are producing heat, a lot of heat, and some moisture as they burn kerosene or whatever jets burn, jet fuel, which is kind of like gasoline, but a little more octane in there. But the point is, the only constituents coming out of the tailpipe there would be water. There would be some soot from the burning of hydrocarbon. You're always going to have that, just like a car exhaust would too, but it's trace amounts. And that's it. And so if the conditions are right, and they have to be right up there, you have to have a certain amount of water and temperature in order to maximize the contrail. And typically that happens around 25 to 40,000 feet. So when you see these traces in the sky, that's what's going on. They're usually high altitude flights. You get down lower than that, and either the air is too warm or there's not enough of a contrast between the heat exiting those engines and the air around it, and so you won't get a contrail. And there are times when a plane, as it climbs, will produce a contrail, then not, and then again, and so forth. So it's fascinating, you know, and of course it leaves a trace across the sky. Here in the tri-state, we are at basically the intersection of several east-west, north-south air highways, basically. They call them Victor highways, but when planes fly, the controllers set them up basically along a highway in the sky. So you will see often several traces going in the same direction or in the same general area. And oftentimes, especially if the conditions are right, you know, it looks like tic-tac-toe. You'll see north-south, east-west. And I think that's where some of the conspiracy theorists, you know, think that it's like, you know, like a farmer planting seed or whatever, making a grid pattern. But it really is just incidental to the path of the flights. Keep in mind there are about 5,000 flights in the air at any given time. during the day across the United States. And then you can get contrails at night too. They're harder to see, but if the moon's out, sometimes you can. Occasionally, contrails, if they hang out there long enough, will kind of diffuse, right? If there's enough wind to stir them up or disperse them, you can actually create a deck of cirrus clouds. These are the only truly man-made clouds. They are man-made because those are planes, right? Jets that are creating them. And that cloud deck, like any cloud deck, can either hold in heat at the surface or deflect incoming radiation from the sun and cause it to be locally cooler. So there are some measurable weather impacts that can happen if you get a lot of them up there. But it's not anything that will, sway the weather in any way. Sometimes contrails create a shadow. If you get that cloud in there and it's between the sun and a bank of clouds, you'll see what appears to be a black line up there. And this is just for aviation geeks, but the north and eastbound flights fly at the odd altitudes, like 31,000, 33,000, etc. And the south and western bound flights will fly at even altitudes, like 40,000. 40,000 is pretty high, but 30, 32, 34, and 36, etc. And most contrails, as I said, appear at about 25 to 40,000 feet. And another interesting thing, if I still have anybody paying attention, contrails first appeared during World War II, because prior to that we didn't have any aircraft or any mechanism that would get that kind of heat up at altitude. And B-29 bombers were pressurized, so they could get up a lot higher than the B-17, which I believe was not pressurized. They had to use oxygen. But anyhow, a propeller-driven aircraft puts out heat because it's burning fuel, just like a jet. And so it was discovered that these warplanes, bombers, were producing these contrails. Well, that's a tremendous disadvantage. If you're trying to sneak in and bomb a site, it's much easier then for the anti-aircraft forces to follow the contrail to the plane. And so the meteorologists during World War II, and then subsequently, part of the meteorology was you'd send a weather balloon up and figure out where you had conditions favorable for contrails, which would be, shorter distance between the dew point and the temperature. In other words, the air was saturated. So they would keep the planes, above or below that, typically below it, so they wouldn't make a contrail at all as they went up. Contrails occur all over the world, and of course we have many more flights operating over the United States and over the world than we did, say, 30 years ago. And as I mentioned before, these can be forecast with weather balloon data. Just another reason that weather balloon information is useful. So there's a little something for you. All right, we'll go back to your comments here. Cheyenne Hammonds took the kids to Linville Lake, I guess, to swim and cruise around in the boat, and the water was definitely getting cool compared to 3 weeks ago. Yeah, still had a great time. How can you not have a good time on the lake, right? I was at the waterworks on Thursday, the Evansville filtration plant, and doing a piece on how it works, and the water temperature of the river was 80 degrees, 13 feet deep, 80 degrees, and not moving. So that's why the water tastes a little fishy, and they're doing their best down there to, not to get the taste out. They put activated charcoal and stuff in. All right, well, that's all I have for you tonight. I appreciate you watching the stream here tonight. Tomorrow, let me think here. I think Byron is back tomorrow, so we're all in our normal spots. I'll see you on 14 News at 10. Byron will catch you tomorrow, and Arden will be here during the afternoon. You have a great night, and thanks for watching. Stay safe.